Okay, for this particular assignment, it covers the chapters on civil liberties and civil rights. So you've got two questions that you're going to do on this one. I want you to take a look at the chapters on civil liberties and civil rights. But in general, when you're talking about civil liberties, I mean, the other word for liberty is freedom. So you're talking about your freedoms. Most of those freedoms are going to be found and protected in the Bill of Rights, which you now know are the first 10 amendments to the U.S. Constitution, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and those are pretty easy for us to comprehend. For this particular question, I'm having you on that first one. I'm having you deal with a right that is not directly talked about in the Constitution, and that's a privacy right. It's certainly inferred when you look at the amendment that says no illegal search and seizure. Certainly that implies that you have some privacy rights. And the one that I want you to take a look at is the right to die. Obviously, this is a controversial subject, as many of the privacy rights would be. Another one would be reproductive freedom. So a lot of your privacy rights are going to be those that are a little bit controversial. But the right to die is an interesting concept, and certainly there's disagreement between the states on how it should be implemented or if it should be implemented at all. So I've given you a documentary that I want you to take a look at, and this is the longest one that you will have to look at the entire semester, but it gives you a pretty good overview. In addition, I've given you a couple of other resources that you can go to get a really good balanced view on the right to die. And then afterwards, I want you to write a 2-page double-spaced paper with your thoughts on the right to die. In other words, should people have that right or should they not have that right? There is no right or wrong answer. You get to take the position that you want to take, but I want you to, in your answer, to give me at least 3 references back to that documentary that you watched. And then the second question deals with civil rights. That, in differing from civil liberties, your civil rights. I mean, we want to be free to do pretty much anything we want to whenever we want to. But at times, when we're talking about civil rights, sometimes we need government to step in order to protect those freedoms. We have had, the civil rights movement for African Americans. We've had the women's movement where women wanted the right to vote. Women wanted an equal rights amendment, which of course they did not receive under the U.S. Constitution. More recently, the Black Lives Matter, the Me Too movement. So there have been a number of movements or civil rights movements that have stressed, particularly these liberties where they need or they want government to intervene to ensure that we do have those particular freedoms. I know that all of you have taken history. I know that you know a lot about the civil rights movement for African Americans trying to, not only to escape slavery, but also to during the 50s and 60s, which is actually when I grew up, having rights that maybe they didn't have. And certainly, having grown up in that particular time, I was a product of segregation. There were white schools and there were black schools. And so I'm asking you to take a look at 2 pretty short films that deal with the civil rights movement. And again, on a 2-page paper, double-spaced. The first page, I don't want you to tell me about what happened. I don't want, you to rehash the video that you just watched. I want you to give me your reaction to it. So the first page of it should be a reaction, and the second page is where I'm just asking for you to think about where we stand today when it comes to equal rights. So just 2 questions for this assignment, and if you have any questions, please reach out.